Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast. Join your host, Nicole Cox, as she dives into the real stories, tips, secrets, and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside the trade world. Nick is here to help you break free from the grind, reduce money stress, and build a trade business that truly works for you. So grab a brew, put your phone on silent, and get ready to be inspired.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back. You know what you're doing here. It's the Tradies in Business podcast, and we have a special guest episode, all of which you already know because you've read the show notes, you clicked on it, you saw the title. Reese Clay, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, Reese, we're going to be talking all about our online presence and digital marketing today. So before everybody at home switches off, please don't. We're going to do this with no bullshit. We're going to debunk some myths. And we're
Yep.
actually going to talk about what's necessary so you, as a listener, can stop feeling like you're drowning in all of the things that some very clever marketers keep telling you that you need. Reese, before we dig into debunking the myths, how about you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing what you do now?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, firstly, I grew up and my dad was a timber joiner and
Mhm.
he ran his own business here on the sunny coast. And so I used to spend a lot of school holidays working with him. And, so I sort of had a bit of on the tools experience. And when I was about 13 or 14, because I was quite interested in computers when I was a kid. And my dad just said, "Oh, can you build a website for my business?" And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll have a crack at that. And I made a website for the business. Looking back, it was pretty unprofessional, but I think I basically just got like a template, put his photos in, put the business name in, stuff like that. And, we launched that and all of his sort of friends started saying, "Oh, can you do websites for me?" And so I did a couple of websites, and that was, I guess, what got me interested in building websites in the first place.
Wow, they didn't even have websites when I was that age, Reese. It hadn't even been invented yet. So I
Yeah.
find that really quite fascinating because even now I couldn't build a website if I tried.
Yeah. So this was sort of even like pre-Google kind of stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, it was everyone who was doing it was pretty sort of cutting edge kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
would, I imagine, been quite complex back then, not like nowadays in theory, it's quite simple.
Mm.
Back then, there would have been a lot of coding. There would have been quite a lot of the framework that you'd have to set up. It'd be quite a comprehensive job.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of come and gone in waves. So it seems like
Mm.
it gets easier and then it gets harder, and it just seems to keep going in that sort of wave. So yeah, but you're right. I had to use I think it was like animation software to build the
Wow.
website back then. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is quite fascinating. I was only thinking back the other day to my first encounter with the internet, and I'm pretty sure it was a chat room on my sister-in-law's computer at the time, and I can still vividly remember the dial-up tone.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
you'd drop off randomly, and that'd be it. There'd be no more internet for you for the day. It
Mm.
was just nuts. So things
Mm.
have certainly changed. Um,
Yes.
okay, so you've gone from building websites for your dad and his mates. Where to from there?
Yeah, so I had a bit of an interesting journey. I went off to university as a lot of people do, and I actually studied engineering and I worked as an engineer for a while. And, it's life basically brought me back to the Sunshine Coast. There was an opportunity to build a house here when me and my partner had our first child. So came back here, and at the time there was just no work in engineering, and I had that experience in IT, and also in my engineering roles I'd done IT work. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
thought for 6 months I can do IT as my own business until I can land a job. And I reckon after probably like 3 months I was like, I'm never going back to a job. Like, and I think as a kid my dream was always to have my own business, so it just kind of worked out perfectly.
That's amazing. So tell us about what it is. Like, how did that start? What were you doing at the time? When you say IT, that's pretty broad. So how
Yeah.
did it start out for you and what are you doing now?
Yeah, so initially this was about 12, 13 years ago, basically the age of my oldest child.
Mhm.
And so at that time, there was a lot of work for setting up networks for businesses.
Mhm.
That was a big thing. And nowadays, that's all moved to the cloud. So it's all
Mhm.
so easy nowadays. But that was basically the majority of my work was setting up the networks and maintaining the networks. And that would sort of be, I'd kind of make contacts with people and then I would end up, they just would like to put me in a box and say, you do everything with computers. So you do the websites and then I got like a bit of exposure to marketing. Someone said,
Yep.
"Oh, can you do marketing?" And yeah, just one thing led to another, and
Yep.
I sort of more transitioned into the websites and the marketing because I was finding the IT stuff. It's just so good nowadays. You don't really need, uh,
No.
you know, all that sort of complicated stuff anymore.
No, it really has shifted in a short period of time, hasn't it?
Mm, mm,
Okay, so marketing, it's a beast. Let's call it for what it is. It's so complicated
yeah.
and nowadays it changes really quickly. You look at all of the updates that Meta rolls out, it can be so confusing, particularly for the audience that we're talking to today, the humble tradie, not
Mm,
marketers. They don't know how to do this stuff. And yes,
mhm,
social media has certainly opened up an opportunity for us to be more of ourselves and potentially attract clients that way. But
mm,
the whole thing can be really, really quite confusing. And as I spoke to you about before we jumped on, Reese, I'll call it for what it is. Marketing consultants are very good at marketing themselves
yeah,
and fantastic at selling a story or a tale.
yeah,
And so unfortunately, I've seen some really dreadful practices within the industry that mean that unknowing people or unaware people find themselves in a position often where they're being sold these amazing packages that don't actually do anything or very
yeah,
little.
yeah,
So we were talking off air about vanity metrics being one
yeah.
of those key areas when it comes to any kind of online presence
Mm,
that marketers often talk about and use as a way to sell you into a solution and then maintain that solution.
yeah.
Can you talk to us today about, well, what is a vanity metrics? A vanity metrics? What would you consider to be the things that we don't really need to be worried about? And what should we be looking towards to see the real results of anything that somebody is doing for us?
Yeah, so in my mind, there's basically two things that matter to a business, but I'll just quickly run through some of the. I call it bamboozling. Basically, some of the things I've seen marketers focus on are things like sessions, which is the traffic to the website, the time on the site, the bounce rate,
Mhm.
even the rankings themselves. So how well a business does in Google is in some ways a vanity metric.
Mhm.
And really, the bottom line, and this is something that, as someone that's been around small businesses a lot, the bottom line is the number of inquiries to the business. And for a tradie, that's basically contact form submissions and phone calls. That's
Yep.
that's all that matters really at the end of the day. And is that going up or is
Mhm.
that going down? That's really the most important thing.
I couldn't agree more.
Mm.
And the quality needs to be there. I've worked with some people
Yeah,
over time where I could have dozens of inquiries and none of them were my target market. It was just a waste
yeah.
of time.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So the really good thing with Google is that the quality of leads is generally the highest because,
Mm,
if you're looking for a plumber at, 2 in the morning to get your
mhm.
hot water back on, you're not browsing websites and,
No.
you want somebody right now. So you're going to go to Google for that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's a much simpler, well, in my experience anyway, much simpler beast to work with than something like Meta. Meta marketing is a nightmare. It changes so quickly. It's hard to stay on top of. It truly is, at least in my position, something that you need somebody within that field to help you with.
Yeah.
Well, actually, for me too, I'd also need help with Google because I am a dinosaur. However, I'm sure a savvy young tradie could actually navigate Google stuff themselves, at least for now, until that starts to play up like a secondary
Yeah.
watch as well.
Definitely, you can actually probably do both
Mhm.
DIY as well. Like, there's so many good resources, and I see heaps of tradies nowadays that do ads that are pretty good.
Mhm.
I think if you just on Meta, if you just do some examples of your work, and you just
Mhm.
got some high quality images, and you just focus on the benefits to the customer,
Yep.
and then Google Ads that too. It's pretty simple. Like, if you just do your service plus your location. Make sure you're targeting your. A big thing I see is people target all of Australia, but you
Yeah,
really, 50, 100 Ks from where you live when you're starting out.
exactly.
Uh, Yeah, and then even like with what I do as well, if you're on a tight budget, you can get someone like me to come in and set up Google Ads to begin with,
Mhm.
and then you just kind of take it over from there. Because there is a few things you got to be careful of with Google Ads. They are pushing people into really broad searches. So, give you like a prime example. One of my clients does door handles, and
Mhm.
the way Google Ads comes out of the box, you'd be running ads for car door handles, not kitchen handles.
Got it.
And so I think my biggest piece of advice with Google Ads is to just be super precise
Mhm.
with your advertising. And it's a little bit complicated to do that.
Mhm.
But when you do that, you get some really good results. Like I've got a client, it's a smoke alarm business up in Cairns, and like 1/3 of the people that click on their ads are becoming inquiries. So
Wow, that's a great stat.
yeah, they're the highest of all my clients. So, and that's because our ads are so particular.
Yeah.
We're only running ads for smoke alarms, cans, and related searches. We're not running ads for like smoke alarm laws, smoke alarm legislation, stuff like that,
Got
which
it.
out of the box you would be running ads for that.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
Okay, let's talk about what a humble startup, tradie, man in a van kind of business actually requires in terms of an online presence.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I can probably also, in my notes, I wrote down roughly how much it should cost as well, just
Yes,
so
that
people
would
have
be
an idea.
fantastic. Yep.
Yeah. So, to begin with, the first thing you're going to want is a domain name.
Mhm.
That's probably like as soon as you decide on your business name, you're going to want to get a domain name. Now, you in Australia, you do actually have to have the trading name prior to organizing the domain name. So you do the trading name through ASIC. There are leech companies that pretend to be ASIC and they pick up money off that.
I do.
So just make sure you're doing it through the proper government because
Mm.
otherwise you're paying way too much for the trading name.
Mhm.
Once you have that, you can get a domain name. You can go through like GoDaddy, Crazy Domains. Their pricing's good,
Mhm.
and it should cost you between $15 and $30 for a year for a .com.au domain. And then on top of that, you're going to want to set up a website. At the very least, you're going to want to do a Google My Business profile. That's
Yeah.
probably at the very like I think the website you don't necessarily have to do, but
Yep.
that is the big thing. And the Google Business profile is free as well.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's really easy to do. You just if you just do a search how to build Google Business profile or something like that.
Mhm.
And it's just, listing your name, your contact details, some photos of what you do, your services. That's going to get you a long way. I'd be then also trying to get reviews as well.
Absolutely.
But, that's something we could talk about like in depth, but that is a
Mm.
big
Mm.
factor in how well you do on Google. But let's say you've done that,
Mhm.
then you're probably going to want to look at doing a website because it does add professionalism.
Mhm.
But you could probably get away with, your first year, just your Google business profile.
Yep.
It's probably not going to hold you back too much not having a website. But if you're ready for that next level, you do a website. You can DIY nowadays with Squarespace, Wix. Bear in mind with those platforms, the monthly fees are reasonably high,
Mhm.
and I'll get into that a bit. But they're a pretty good option,
Mhm.
Or you can engage a web developer,
Mhm.
and they will create a bespoke website for you.
Mhm.
In my notes here, I'd say probably budget between $1,500 and $5,000 for a website.
Yep.
And that depends probably on, I did make some notes on how you could probably get that price down. So a thing that will, things that will bring the price down are having a really good understanding of what you want. So being able to clearly outline what you want. If you've already got your branding completed, so like if you've engaged a designer or even just on Canva, like, you just look through different logo designs on Canva.
It works really well. I love Canva.
Yeah.
Um, Reese, when you think about a website, what do we actually need?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of confusion around. If I think about my own website, well, I have a couple of websites because I've got a couple of businesses. So my
Mm.
business website's really comprehensive, and it
Yeah.
needs to be comprehensive for the
Yeah.
kind of My potential clients need a lot of time on my website to learn how to trust me before they're willing to take a step. And so it needs to be really comprehensive. Same isn't necessarily true for particularly a service trade. Maybe for a builder,
Yep.
we need more evidence, we need more
Mm.
capacity on the website. But for a service trade, I don't think, at least in my opinion, we need a really comprehensive website. But can you talk us through what we do need?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're totally spot on there for service-based businesses because, I've probably built 50 to 100 websites for service-based businesses, and can see plenty that are doing well. And
Mm.
all you really need is what you do, how you benefit customers, your
Mhm.
location, and details on how to contact you, and just showcase some of your work. That's really all you need. It's really quite simple.
It doesn't need to be overly complicated.
Mm.
And I think this is the problem that we were alluding to earlier. When we get very clever marketers talking to people that are unaware, suddenly we end up with these huge websites that just aren't necessary.
Mm.
And instead,
Yeah,
something very simple, even a one-page website can often be enough. Because
correct.
again, with the service trade, they're more likely, your clients are more likely to go to Google, look
Yep.
at your reviews,
Yes.
and then move through and give you a call. They're not
Correct.
actually probably even going to go to your website.
Yep.
Before we move on to reviews, how important is social media then for that social proof?
Yeah. So look, I think if your time is limited, social media is not essential for
Mhm,
your business. And I sort of think a good way to think about it is if you're going to do it, you have to commit to it.
mhm.
If you don't think you're going to have the time to commit to it, I think there's more productive ways to spend your time as a business. Having said that, people who do it well, it's another source of advertising or free advertising in a way.
Yeah.
So, look, I don't want to discount it completely, but most people, most tradies, are pretty pumped for
Mhm.
time. So, I would say, don't necessarily spend your time on that. It's not going to really provide much benefits. Like when you think about when you've contracted a service-based business, you haven't checked their social media, it's
No, it's
exactly
pretty rare you bother.
yeah, it's exactly as you were saying. You just Google search it, look at the bit, probably look at the reviews, go to their website, just make sure that, what they do is what you want and
Yeah,
it all looks legitimate, and then you get the contact details off their website. and
good to
And,
go.
a lot of people nowadays, like probably 20% of people don't even go to the website. They just are on the Google local search, bring up the phone number and
Mm.
mm,
I'm a big believer that photos on your Google My Business is really beneficial. And
yeah,
now I'm a woman also, and I'm in my home most of the time on my own.
yes,
So if I'm having a tradie come into my home, if I'm having anyone come into my home, let's call it for what it is, I want to see their face before they come to my
yeah,
home so that
yeah,
I know that I feel comfortable with that person.
yes,
I do think photos are super beneficial for that purpose as well.
yes. I couldn't agree with you more. Like even as a male, like I don't love just having random people over to my
Ah,
house. So yeah. So look, I would really recommend hiring a photographer and get him to
yeah.
come out with you for a day and
Yep.
just get some photos of you smiling on the job. A lot of people, they don't necessarily want to invest that money in that and will use stock photos, but
It's just
and
not the same.
yeah, it's not, no.
It's just not the same at all. The other thing that I've seen work really, really well, depending on your target market. So we actually haven't spoken much about the client avatar, and we should probably touch on that too, Reese.
Mm,
Is if we've got clarity over who our clients are, like I'm a dog mum now. And so if the trader that comes to my home doesn't like dogs, we're probably not going to get along particularly well and I'm going to feel uncomfortable.
mm,
Prior to that, I was a kid mum. I had kids in my house all the time. So you have a real opportunity with the photos that you use to quietly suggest that you're okay with kids, you're okay with animals. It's quite subtle, but it really helps with that connection piece for somebody when they're choosing who's going to come into their home.
Yeah. So in marketing, you talk about barriers to entry.
Hmm.
And so it's just like little walls that people will put up, and it's just trying to tick those boxes. And so trust is a big thing. So that's built through reviews nowadays. Obviously, referrals are even better, but
Mm-hmm.
reviews also work really well. And I think, yeah, your messaging and your imagery can convey a lot of that as well. So I've seen some really good ones recently where it's been, just a young fella electrician business, and it's just a photo of him and his family, and he's got his tools, and it's like So, they're a family person, like,
Mhm.
it just instantly kind of builds trust, doesn't it?
Well, it speaks volumes. It says there's so many things that that little photo says
Mm,
for somebody who's looking to engage their services.
mm,
And I think there's a lot of power now, whether it be with photos or videos, it can just be so subtle. I mean, if you're jumping out of your van and a dog's around your feet and you pat the dog and then you say hi to the lady with the child on a hip in a video that takes 10 seconds,
mm,
that speaks volumes to somebody that wants you in their home
mm,
and makes them feel instantly comfortable, which is we haven't really spoken either about the know, like, and trust required for somebody, which is why all of this stuff that you do is so important. I
mm,
need to at least have an understanding of who you are, that's the no. I need to like and this is a very appearance based, but that's the way we judge people, unfortunately. I need to like what I see, and I need to feel like I can trust you, and I can do all of that could be conveyed in a quick 10, 15, 30-second video. So, and
mm.
all of which can go onto your Google My Business. I think it's an amazing platform for the opportunities that are available to you without you having to spend a bunch of money to get it there in the first place.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's probably worth pointing out that what we are talking about, you know, if you don't have this stuff already, you're still going to get leads for your business. But this sort of stuff is really going to give you that cream, that
Yeah.
more and more for very minimal effort. And this would
Yes.
be what we call best practices.
Yep. Love that, Reese. Great reminder. All right, let's talk about reviews. They're like the crown. I love reviews. They're amazing. They're not
Yep.
easy to get though.
No.
But tell me from your point of view with digital marketing, how important are they and how much of a focus should they be for a tradie?
Oh, they're so important. Like,
Mhm.
it's really hard when a business starts out and they have minimal reviews, because there's that social proof's not there. So I'll probably honestly tell people, go out and do discounted or free work, or friends and family and stuff like that, just to get those reviews. Most people will have that
Mhm.
off the bat, because they are just so critical. And you don't need heaps. You probably need 5 to 10 to start out with, and that can be friends and family. Now, the sort of legal requirements from Google and the other platforms are that they are legitimate reviews, like you have actually worked with that person.
Yes.
It can't just be made up.
Mhm.
But, say you're an air conditioner technician,
Mhm.
and it could just be, "Hey, I'll come over, clean your filters, and just leave me a review."
Yeah.
That's gonna be what, 15 minutes, 30 minutes of your time?
Yeah, that's right. It's a great way to get a good review. They are so important. They're the
Yeah.
first thing I look at. I think it also needs to be stated the way you respond to your reviews can go a long way as well because
Yeah.
let's face it, at some point in time, any business is going to end up with a low review, whether it's a 1 star or
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
kind of scathing review. But
Yeah.
if you answer it well, you either call it out if it's bullshit because occasionally you get bot ones that are
Yes.
absolute bullshit.
Yes.
So you call that out or you respond really professionally to someone that you have managed to let down somehow, whether you agree with them or not. We want
Yep.
to just appear professional. It can make a huge difference to either one, discounting that. I'm one of
Yeah.
those people that if I see a negative review, I'm going to click on who gave the review. And it's going to tell me whether they've given other negative reviews or not.
Mm.
If I
Mm.
see they've given a lot, I think, oh, well, you're just a whinger.
Yeah.
If I see it's their first one, I think, okay, so this person felt really let down. Now, how
Yeah.
was it answered and dealt with? And if it
Yeah.
was dealt with well, I'll just discount it and move on.
Yeah, I could talk about this a lot because it's a big thing with my clients.
Mm.
Just recently, I was with one of my clients, mobile aircon,
Mhm.
and he's just one of those people that goes the extra mile. And he had a bad review because he did well, the lady asked to do an aircon regas, and he said, "Well, your system's leaking behind the dash. You're going to have to take the dash out and repair it. Otherwise, it's like actually dangerous for your health."
Mm.
And she just went, "Nah, I'm not going to do that." She went to another mob, they regassed it, and we're like, "Yep, sweet." And she's left the initial guy a bad review,
Yep.
and so he was a bit distressed by it. And I just said, "Look, you know, expect one bad one in 100. Like, it's
Mm.
just almost impossible to not get a,
Agree.
yeah, you're going to get it." If it's not legitimate, you can report them to Google, and
Mhm.
you can have pretty clear evidence. Like, you can say, I've got no, like, if you're using some sort of software, say it's like ServiceMate or something like that, I've got no record of this person in my business.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times those ones just get removed anyways because they're
Mm.
just made up reviews. Uh, if it is legitimate, the best thing you can do is respond to it ideally you'll want to try and reach out to them outside of Google.
Yes.
You want to try and contact them and just be like, look, I'm really sorry that XYZ happened. What can I do to make it right? A lot of the times, just you doing that, they'll be like, oh, I just had a bad day,
That's so true.
and then they'll be like, oh yeah, actually, do you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll remove it or something like that. Like
Yeah.
that resolves it most of the time. If for whatever reason that doesn't happen, then you just basically reply with the circumstances if
Mm.
they're in your favor, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Mhm.
And then it's just clear for the rest of the world what actually happened. Yeah.
I think it's just so important, really valid point.
Yeah.
Reese, we haven't really talked about what you do. So, I mean, you have a really broad scope, but one of the first things you and I spoke about is how you create really simple websites for tradies.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yes. So I sort of got in touch with you because last year I developed a product that I'd had in my mind for a really long time, and I was finally ready to do it. And I basically made a website builder
Mhm.
focused on tradie businesses.
Mhm.
And it allows me to create websites that work really well, look great, and they're just simple.
Mhm.
And I'm able to create them efficiently, quickly, and it's really low cost
Mhm.
compared to and so some of the costs I was giving earlier, it's a lot lower than that. So there's not necessarily there's no upfront cost,
Yep.
and it's $180 a year,
Yep.
and that includes everything. The only thing is if you want to get an email address, you just have to do that separately. But that's the
Mm.
case no matter what, really.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just worth outlining though that it is intended for businesses that are small to medium sized because it,
Yeah.
it creates a one page website.
Mhm.
It does allow you to do everything we talked about.
Mhm.
But if you are, say, a builder and you want to showcase your building designs, obviously you're going to need a bespoke website. But
Yep.
yeah, for
Something.
those
Right.
for those interested, it's tradekick.com.au.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell.
I think for anybody that's just starting out, a one page website is more than what is required. Like it's going to have everything that you need there for your clients to see you. It is, I just want to make it clear the $180 a year includes the website
Yes.
and the hosting, right? It's the whole
Yes.
kit and
That's
caboodle.
it. Yep, that's exactly right. Yep.
It's the whole fee. We're not talking about $1,200,
Yep.
$1,500. Crikey's my last website cost me 20 grand. We're not talking about those ridiculous costs. We're talking
Yep.
about $180 a year. I think it's a no-brainer if you're just stepping into business or even if you've been in business for a little while, but you have a very small team or it's only you. That's the kind of project size we're talking about here.
Mm.
As Reese has said, for a builder or a more comprehensive trade, we might need to build out lists of services or
Mm.
display the projects that we've been working on. That's a bespoke build, but I'd still encourage you to reach out to Reese. He does some fantastic work. Reese, I really enjoyed our chat. I could talk about all things marketing all day long. It's my favorite subject. That said, is there anything that we didn't touch on today that you reckon a tradie should really know about their digital marketing or their online presence?
Yeah, I just had one other note. So this is for people that have already, gone through the route of setting up their website, their hosting, domain, and all that sort of stuff. It's really important that that stuff is in your name. And
Yes.
quite often, you'll hand that over to a company, and they will sort of look after it for you. And a lot of
Mhm.
the times, they'll keep it under their account, under their name. And the problem with that is they will use that as a way of locking you in
Yep.
with the business. And so I just really strongly suggest to just check that all of that stuff is in your name because most of the time they don't have a legal right to it anyways, like domain names and stuff like that. So it's just important to double check that. Mm.
I think that's the most important point you've made all day.
And then probably the other thing would be if you are paying for marketing, look at what you're paying for, and ultimately, like since doing it, have your inquiries increased,
Yes.
and has it justified the cost that you're paying?
Mhm. Are you getting a return on investment or are you just paying that
Yes.
money for nothing?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Reese, can you remind our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, so the thing we were talking about, the website builder, that's tradekick.com.au.
Mhm.
And then my day job is Kaha Digital.
Mhm.
It's Kaha.
Mhm.
Um, Look, if you just, I'm an easy person to talk to. If you've got questions, whatever, like just feel free to get in touch with me. I'm always keen to have a chat. I'm always pretty available and everything like that. I'm not necessarily looking to, you know, uh, it's not a sale or anything like that. Like I'm always just keen to help provide people information and stuff like that, and they can make a decision from there. Yeah.
That's fantastic, Reese. Thank you so much. Listeners, if you're thinking about a website, have a chat to Reese. Thank you, Reese. I've enjoyed it. It's been great. I look
Mm.
forward to chatting with you again soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Tradies in Business podcast with Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.